she, her, hers, and I am a donor relations officer for the Portland Metro region. And I'm really excited to facilitate this session for a variety of reasons. I have connections to a couple of the presenters that I really admire the work that they do. And this is something that I care about, and obviously we all care about too. So I will ask our amazing nonprofit folks to introduce themselves. Please share your name, your preferred pronouns, the organization you're with, and where you are. And Audrey, would you mind going first?
Sure. I'm Audrey Tehan, she, her, hers, and I'm the executive director of and the founder of Seed to Table. We're a nonprofit education farm located in Central Oregon in Sisters, and we are on the tribal lands of the Wasco, Northern Paiute, and the Warm Springs tribes. And we run a 4-acre nonprofit education farm that's about a quarter mile from the elementary school, and serve students, about 1,300 students from throughout Deschutes in Jefferson County, including the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. And then we distribute about 50,000 pounds of fresh grown produce throughout the region as well.
Awesome, thanks Audrey. And Jaime, would you mind going next?
Buenos dias, good to be with you all. My name is Jaime Arredondo, he and his. I'm also a father, a son, and one thing, I try to be a partner to anyone that wants to dance in the arc of social change. And the mission of Capaces Leadership Institute is to strengthen the wellness, the capacity, and the political consciousness of leaders, organizations, networks, and communities to eliminate social disparities. And so that's what we do. I'll touch a little bit later on in terms of how we focus on food access. But also want to let you know that I'm freezing. My furnace is it's not working. So if you see me shaking, partly it's because I'm nervous and partly it's because I am a little cold. So I'm trying to layer up. It's good to be with you all.
Oh, Jaime, I'm so sorry. It's a wrong time for the furnace to go out. Stefan, going next, please.
Yeah, I'm Stefan Almack, and I am sitting in our school on ancestral Kalapuya land, and our school is named after that that tribe. So I'm at Kalapuya High School, and Kalapuya serves traditionally what are known as at-risk high school students, and one of our cornerstone projects has been the Bethel Farm, which was started with OCF funds, and that's what I'm excited to talk a little bit about today. And he is.
Thank you so much. So I do have a slide deck for Jaime that I'm happy to run. So the questions that we're going to explore during our breakout session today, some of the similar questions that we asked the main panel. So I would like to start, and you can popcorn style, and if you don't go, I'm happy to call on you. So what is the current reality of food access for students in Oregon today?
I can take the start on this. And yeah, so at Seed to Table Farm, our mission is to increase the health and wellness of our community through equitable access to fresh and local foods, and then also to provide opportunities in farm-based science and wellness education. So we work with a lot of the farm to school programming traditionally, and we do like a field trip series. We still are going to be able to do it with COVID this spring, so that's really exciting. But kind of our other facet of food in the schools has, I mean, when you think about the sheer number of students that are on the free and reduced lunch meal programs, the schools that we work with range from 45% free and reduced to 99% free and reduced. And the majority of those students are all relying or did rely on those breakfast and lunch programs at the school. And we've just seen a devastating kind of fallout since parents haven't been able to get their students to the school to, I mean, if you think of a parent having to drive their child to school while trying to work to get breakfast and lunch, and maybe try and work or homeschool all their students, just students are at a huge disconnect. And not only are the students at a huge disconnect and also not able to receive that food that they have been having, but we are finding that the families, at one of our produce pickup points, a mother came and has her, her 3 kids in the middle of the day. And I was talking with her, and her food cost has just gone up by 30% because of that, not able to get to the schools and not able to take advantage of those school lunch programs during the pandemic. We're in a very rural area, so there's not a lot of public transportation, and just has really shown us the true, the true lack of support within our infrastructure to support something like this and to support our most vulnerable populations. So I think it's just, it goes from the students not being able to receive those meals. And then also one of our programs was we grew the salad and for the school lunch programs. And so every student would have access to the salad bar at the school lunches, but because of the pandemic, they're having to go to just pre-packaged like carrots anything is really great right now, but that just is really also taking away from that, that nutritional and wellness factor that we're getting food, we're undercutting our local food system even more because now we're having to ship in, tiny pre-packaged carrots, which is an amazing thing to be having, but it's just this change of our system. And so, it's just been really, I think it's been really challenging for a lot of people, and there's never been more need than there is now for food at the student level and at the family level.
Thank you, Audrey. For those of you who are joining us, welcome. We are discussing the current reality of food access for students in Oregon. And we have our panelists here, Audrey from Seed to Table, Aime Arredondo from Oregon Farm to School and School Garden Network board member, also executive director of Capaces Leadership Institute, and Stefan Omak, co-principal at Kalapuya High School and Bethel Farm. So the question is the current reality of food access for students in Oregon. So thank you, Audrey. Stefan, would you mind going next?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Audrey just said, and we are seeing more. Our district had been, doing fairly well with buying local food and doing a lot of scratch meals in the district I work in, and I could compare that to the district where my students, my own kids go, which was very different. And so I think there's a lot of disparity just from district to district. And that this pandemic has, because we are, our district has been pushing out meals on Tuesdays and Fridays, so they have to be packaged. A family's getting a breakfast and lunch for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you can need to do 3 days, then 4 days at a time, and that's just kind of taken away a lot of scratch opportunities and kind of pushed more processed food, less local food, and the need, and I have a few slides when it's appropriate to talk about, just the exponential need that we're seeing in our district, but it's incredibly visible, and I feel like so many things in this pandemic, we're doing what we can, but it's a far cry from where we want to be.
Yes, thank you. Jaime, do you mind talking about current reality of food access for students in Oregon?
Yeah, I could give you a bunch of data, right, about how this impacts our immigrant Latino indigenous community. And I have some of that information to share with you later on, but I kind of want to tell you how we arrived at addressing food access, right? And so I'm a storyteller, so I want to share a brief story that I wrote this past summer. So I'll share my screen so to give you some color here to work with. Um, it's short, but it's it's my way of sort of talking about how we arrived at this work. That's my folks, by the way. That's me in middle school picking cherries. Ya levántate, mijo. Vamos a piscar fresas. Wake up, son. We're gonna go pick strawberries. Those were the words of my parents in my summer vacations, growing up in El Valle, the Willamette Valley, where everything grows. At first, I enjoyed las piscas, picking. Acariciaba las plantitas. I would caress the plants as I gently pulled the fruit down in my bucket. It was like money grew on trees. The more I picked, the more money. And the more money, the more food. But by the time I was a teenager, something had changed along the way. Maybe it was the fact that I couldn't afford those strawberries. Or maybe that I had to drop out of school to go to work. Or that my hands were stained and people would look at them como si estuviera sucio, like I was dirty. I started to hide them. I didn't want people to know that I was a campesino, a farm worker. Fast forward to 2005, I had just graduated from college. After 12 years of spending my summers in Las Piscas, I was ready to move on. No más piscas, no more picking. I remember telling everyone, I'm gonna be a teacher. Little did I know that I couldn't run away from myself. Later that summer, I got a job as a community organizer for Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation. I had to work right away. My family needed me to contribute. I'll try this out for a bit, I said to myself. A bit turned into years, then a decade. And after doing just about every work in the Movimiento Campesino, the farm worker movement, and burning out several times along the way, I started to reflect on my experience, particularly my interaction with farm work. I realized something massive was missing, something hadn't healed. It was my relationship with land y todos sus frutos and all its fruits. And that's where Anahuat came in, a culture-specific program that allows me, children, youth, and families to reconnect with their ancestors, with traditional ways of growing food from thousands and thousands of years ago, through agriculture, through culinary, through ceremonies, through communal life. So this is what it looks like. And obviously during COVID, it's been difficult to navigate this, but we're working in several sites, including Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation, so Farm Worker Housing in Woodburn. We're also in McLaren Correctional Facility up until COVID hit, so we haven't been able to come back as much there. We are about to enter Washington Elementary School as well, but also COVID got in the way of that, but we'll get there at some point. But our goal is to really go to the schools, not just the communities. So that's the dream, especially Woodburn, where we have 90% of the student body that are Latino, and most of them with a farm worker background. So we hoping that one day we'll have land, expand our operation so that our kids can get their meals, culture-specific meals, their produce in their cafeterias, in their homes, in the market. So that's how we arrive at that work. And again, I can share later on in terms of some of the needs, right? But I prefer to talk about the opportunity and the abundance around us. So
Oh, gracias, Jaime. I love the storytelling. It's really impactful. Thank you for sharing. So Jaime, you answered some of the questions moving forward, but since you're sharing your story, I'd love for you to continue doing that. So the next question is, how has your organization responded to need during the pandemic? And it's so hard to know what's going to happen this year and beyond, but if you can maybe speak to what you're thinking, what that's going to look like, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, happy to do that. And thank you all for allowing me the time again. It's interesting because before the pandemic hit, I think this was early 2020, we were working on our values and adopted a set of values that includes the spirit of the abuela, the spirit of the grandmother, tequio, which is communal service with no conditions to service, fluidity, um, and um, holistic wellness. And at that time, we were about a $900,000 organization, budget more or less, about 8 staff. And by the end of 2020, we had doubled the staff. Our budget was nearly 7 million. We are now, working statewide. We are the backbone to 3 networks. One of the Orton Latinx Leadership Network, which works with 80 plus CBOs. So working with all of them, we have a project in the Mid Valley that works with 7 organizations that's doing outreach to farm workers to equip them with information and resources to confront COVID and to overcome COVID. And we're still running our leadership development programming. So we have really, I think, moved with those values. I also have a short kind of reflection that I wrote about that, if you don't mind me sharing, about moving with those values. And one thing, moving like water. So I'll share this. It's short. It's been about 4 months since COVID-19 became a part of our life. Lots of change, pero unas cosas siguen igual, but some things remain the same. Each of us have had our moments and perhaps at times diverged into our own stream. But in terms of how we show up for each other, el movimiento in our community, we're always there, como el agua, like water. I know we can't pamper folks the way we used to in our little house, but whether you think you need us or not, aquí estamos, aquí estaremos. We're here, and we'll always be here. Maybe you just need us to stuff your envelopes or take notes. Maybe you want us to hold your hand and walk you through a difficult path, like the Worker Relief Fund. No te preocupes, don't worry, walk with me. Or maybe you need us to point you to the right person, of course. Perhaps you want us to take a break and join us for 5 minutes of breathing. Come on in, even if it's just you. Maybe you want some fresh produce from your town. Come on in, we'll feed you. Maybe you want us to listen and hear you cry. Just give us a call and no judgment. We are here and we'll be here. So that's kind of just tells you a little bit about the work that we're involved in. And again, we try to move like water, whatever you need us. I don't think we lead on anything, even though we're a leadership institute. More than we support what's already there, which is a lot of assets, a lot of strength.
I mean, thank you so much. I really appreciate your comment about your observation and your belief about moving like water. I think that this last year has been kind of a learning lesson for me personally, and then OCF as well, of how to respond and go with the flow sometimes. And it can be against my nature and against the nature of philanthropy, because philanthropy can move glacially. But I am really appreciative of OCF and our donors for not moving glacially and responding to the needs of our state in such a timely manner and such a generous manner. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. Stefan, I have a too. Do you want to run your slides, or Rena, do you want to do that?
I can share the screen.
Okay, great.
And as I start that, I'll just preface it by saying, Jaime, you're a wonderful storyteller. I sent you a chat there. I'd love to have you share some of those with students. I am not such a great storyteller. I need like a picture to help with 1,000 words kind of thing. Can you guys see the Bethel Farm screen there? All right. So I have several slides, and I'll try to move. I wanted to just share a tiny bit of the overview of the Bethel Farm, and then end with that question that Janessa just asked about how we've pivoted in this pandemic to serve our community. At Kalapuya, we are So there's some conversation going on behind me. We're really trying to address what one of the speakers earlier was talking about, the root causes of hunger, and most of our students here are low income students, and we're trying to provide them skills and opportunities to continue their education and training in some form. The Bethel Farm really is trying to put a lot of theory into action. And so it started with students with a dream. We worked with OCF early on, and basically we took a whole year to have students come up with a proposal for this farm. So they worked with the University of Oregon students. They created this master plan here that looks sort of like a hammerhead, and you'll see that that's come to fruition. And this is the only aerial photo I had, but it's I really appreciated seeing it because it doesn't show that we filled in this whole, can you see my cursor also? I'm not sure. Okay, so we filled in this whole area. We have a whole nother hoop house this big built right here. I'm going to talk in a minute about our community garden. This is our whole community garden area. And 100% of this has been student built from the farm, from the barn to the greenhouse. So students are learning being hired over the summer to do construction. But of course, the root of purpose of this farm is to get students throughout our district and families learning more about food, where it comes from, how to be nutritious, and really how we can, how food can intersect with education. So here on the left, we have, in the high school context, our high school students become leaders for farm field trips every fall and spring when we don't have a global pandemic. And then we're having nutrition classes. We're harvesting from the farm. Students have really taken off with this hot sauce club. And so they entered a recent competition, the Spicy Bowl competition, and won this, best newcomer award for their hot sauces. I could go on and on about, any one of these, but, and then we host, as I just said, we host elementary field trips in the fall and spring where students are pressing apples from the farm or popping popcorn from the farm. They're de-kerneling the corn and realizing like this is how you get popcorn. It's not a bag you put in a microwave. Here they're learning about a pollinator garden. And every year we're adding more. We bring eggs and incubators to elementary class and high school classrooms. Kids of all ages love watching eggs hatch. And we have our own apiary, and occasionally we don't have animals on the farm, but for our summer camps we'll bring those in. But the bees are also a high energy, high interest thing that just teaches a lot of folks about ecology. There's so many ecological lessons, and then and eating honey at the end is always a bonus. Our summer farm interns, we hire students over the summer to obviously grow and tend to the crops, but also to do the food processing for our school meals in our school cafeterias here. They're taking basil and doing that value-added process and making it into pesto with our garlic. And then we've hosted summer farm camps, and these have been free for the community. And while we might do arts and crafts and learn about pollinators, the go-to for food here and the highlight of the day often is that kids are harvesting from the farm and then turning that into their own lunch, and trying to teach them a bit about nutrition and how, and I think this hits a lot of targets, right? I mean, it's actually a lot cheaper to go to Winco and buy raw ingredients and healthier to do that than, doing McDonald's, which might be a little faster and more convenient. And so COVID, this is getting to your question, Janessa, about COVID. I have 3 last slides. As I was showing you in one of those earlier slides, we partner with Huerto de la Familia, and this is an organization that works primarily with Latino families, and we had a local Latino artist come and do this mural with students, which was amazing. But the real work here is, and I don't have a good current aerial photo, but this is for the last, I believe, 3 seasons, we've had 24 families getting individual plots here, and it's amazing. There's wonderful cross-cultural things that some folks have already talked about, where most of our families here are from Oaxaca, and so even the type of irrigation that you're using there, and sort of like this mini flood irrigation, and they're growing specific crops that they use in their tamales, or a kind of there's peppers and native to the Oaxaca area that the families are growing, and we're able to then propagate that in our hot sauce club. And so there's a lot of cross-cultural things happening. But in the pandemic, there was a lot more need, and we took some of our other normal farm areas and added 15 more plots. Some families had double plots. We added some families, and but one of our missions this year is to find permanent space so that we can double the size of that community partnership. We have a plant sale every year. Last year, this hit right during the pandemic, and we said, all right, instead of a plant sale, we're just going to donate all of our food starts. And we grew about 6,000, and we had a drive-through. This actually created quite this was a learning experience for us because it immediately filled our parking lot and started backing up traffic down the road because there was such a need. If you remember, especially at that time, people were like, all right, we're going to like grow our own food. We were able to serve our Calapooya families and Puerto families first to try to just hit those equity marks. But it was a pretty incredible event. And this year we're going to do the same thing and just donate all of our plants. And we did accept donations if people were able to, and we actually made more. This is one of those touching stories where we made more than we would have selling all the plants than we did giving them all away. And most of the people were not making donations, but those who could give did. And it was just a really moving experience to see the community come together. And the last slide here, we partner with the Oregon Food Bank and Food for Lane County. And in the past, we've opened our barn for once a week, and families would come in for a food pantry. And we served about 100 families, per week. And when COVID hit, we couldn't have people coming into the barn, so we had instituted a drive-through food pantry. And we went from once a week to twice a week. And these are the numbers in March. I found this from a previous presentation where we had been serving 100 students per 1 week. Now we were 100 families. Now we were serving 200 families twice a week. And that as the pandemic continued, that grew. You can see this almost, pretty significant growth from 100 families per week to this would be 300 twice a week. So now we're doing 600 families. And we record, this has taken quite a bit of staffing. OCF stepped up and helped us provide some summer staffing because in normal times, you just have one person in there overseeing it. But now with 300 families coming through a day, this line of cars is around the block before we even open. We're the largest food distribution site like this, I believe, in the county. And to date, sorry, I need to lean over and see my screen. We've served, as of last week, 23,000. These aren't unique families, of course, because a lot of them are coming back in. But the total number of families is over 23,000, serving for just about 80,000 individuals. So those are some of the changes that we've had to make, or that we've been able to make with support. And really just coming back to the fact that we're here talking with OCF. OCF gave us the seed money for this farm. We've been able to, it's kind of one of those things where if you build it, they will come. We've been able to write for grants to continue to support and hire students over the summer. And we've been able to get a lot of other support, but because of that, we were well positioned to do things like Produce Plus and the plant sale, and provide, and partner with Puerto de la Familia. So that's Calapooya in a nutshell, and answered some of those questions. For the Bethel Farm, I should say.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And I think just from my own personal experience, part of the seed money for the school farm came from Community 101 students. Community 101 is a youth philanthropy program that is run by OCF. And the thing that I love about this program is that youth are involved and they care and they are learning how food is grown and they're seeing how it's prepared. I was able to eat some popcorn back in the day from the corn that they grew. And I also want to reiterate that it's also because we have a couple donors in Eugene who this is something that they're very passionate about, and it was a sweet spot for them. So thank you. Audrey, I know you talked a little bit about this in your original question, but can you talk a little bit more about, what's going on with Seed to Table, how you responded, and what that might look like going forward?
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna share my screen. this one, and then let's see if this works. My internet seems to be very slow right now. So anyway, I'll just, I guess, start chatting. Yeah, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, which correlated with around the beginning of the farm season for us in Central Oregon. Oh wait, I don't want to share it. I want to present it. Escape. Wow, really slow right now. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so the beginning of the pandemic really correlated with the beginning of our farm season. And I just remember sitting with, you know, all of our field trips canceled. So many things were canceled, but our staff kind of came together with some of our students from our high school agriculture program and just really were able to lean into what we hold the dearest is the land and the food that we produce. And it was, I mean, to have the opportunity to continue to work on the farm for our staff and for some of the students was really powerful in a sense of, with our farm, we want the students to be able to feel empowered that they are, you can see in this picture, the students are harvesting and they harvest like a whole bag of food that they take home to their families then with, you know, whatever recipe they would like to use, but really empowering students that they can feel what it feels like to feed your family a meal. And we're able to partner with the food banks on these and also offer, you know, some pasta or whatever that students could go home and make a meal for themselves and just to feel that sense of empowerment. And I've never felt more of a sense of empowerment and also overwhelm at being a food producer, especially in the high desert community. In our area, there is a lot of seed farms, which are very important as well. And there's like a good handful of local kind of small farms in the area as well, but nothing kind of compared to the Willamette Valley. You know, we live in a very harsh climate over here, but sometimes, you know, I would take the cold over the rain though, many days. So, you know, everybody has their own challenges in their areas. But at the beginning of the pandemic, you know, all of the farms in our region just had like diversified veggie farms. We just had lists upon lists of wait lists for families trying to get in and get this produce. And that lack of, or that sense of fear was so strong of not feeling confident about our food systems and not feeling confident about, you know, where our food was coming from, and then looking at all of these other systems as well, like, you know, just the kind of the inequity that goes into our food system and how easily those can be broken by systemic racism and by, you know, just the work environments that many people are put into. So all the farmers in our regions really felt a lot of pressure. And we are a working farm, just like the Bethel farm as well. And so we just really leaned into that at the beginning of the pandemic, trying to figure out what we can do. We're a small market garden style, but we are expanding. We're doubling in size next year and incorporating some mechanical cultivation, so we have some amazing Latino families that live next door. And they were like, why are you doing this with your hands and not a tractor? And I was like, you are so right. So a lot of like learning from some other amazing Latino families that have come into our area. And just leaning into learning from a lot of people as well during this of how we can produce food for our community. So just 1 second. I'm gonna mute this.
So it's so interesting. We have a totally different experience with personal lives during this Zoom time between children and dogs and cats on laptops and partners not knowing that you're on a Zoom and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Audrey.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so just feeling like so grateful for all of that we had to be able to lean into the land, and then also being able to bring in the students when we could. And so we really just leaned into, we did take home education kits. And then we were also just, the foundation of our farm also is education. And so seeing so much of this, how could we reach students at home with some of the foundations of getting outside and exploring? And so we were able to do a lot of take home education kits that were distributed at the school. And then also a lot of the take home salad kits we were able to do as well, because we weren't able to do those salad bars. So it was kind of just like, how can we get us to everybody, and realizing that we really needed to step up our distribution. In the fall, you can see here, we were able to kind of start our education programs up again, and just realizing the power of our outdoor classroom during the pandemic. And it was so fun to have the students back again, and also to see the resiliency of our students and our communities. Like, masks, no big deal, face shields, no big deal, cucumbers, just everything. It was kind of like they never skipped a beat. And a lot of these students come back year after year. So that was really great to see as well. And some of our programs that we also kept up. So we started, I guess I'll just share one more story about, I think so much innovation came up this year, and creativity, and like kind of going like, just what can we do? We're not doing field trips.
Audrey, we lost your sound. Can other people hear? We can
No.
see you. Okay, now we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Wow. And so I got a phone call from Karina at the Warm Springs Community Action Team, a phone call with Karina and the High Desert Food and Farm Alliance. And that community really got disproportionately hit so hard. And, we had been doing field trips, but just those weren't going to be able to happen. So like, what else, how can we get creative all together? So, we kind of put out a call to action, partnering, and we're able to get in volunteers that every week came and packed the food, and then we're able to deliver and drive, which is an 1.5-hour drive from Sisters. And they were, just volunteers that came, packed the food, drove it up to Karina at the Warm Springs Community Action Team, and did some fresh food distribution. So just these partnerships that we have been kind of slowly building and getting to know people over time really allowed us to pivot really quickly, and allowed people to call us and ask us, what they need. We also had there was the ice raids in Bend here with the Latinx community, and that was really traumatic and has been really traumatic. And so a lot of our Latinx community members just didn't feel safe even going to the food banks or going to these sites. And so partnering with the Servicios Latinos program, we were able to kind of pivot and start a new distribution program right in the neighborhoods that the Biblioteca en Camino had already been distributing. So we had books, toilet paper, toothbrushes, and produce there. And we're able to like get some tomatillos and salsa and really get some cultural foods in there that learned so many great recipes, and also that I'm just like not a very good cook in some ways. So yeah, so I think our other biggest thing was we took over the management of the Sisters Farmers Market this year. And that was a big year to do that project, but realizing that just the more access points that we could give people that were flexible, that were close to their neighborhoods, the better. And the more opportunities. We had like a curbside pickup for those that were COVID, that were more susceptible to COVID or just didn't feel comfortable getting out of, their vehicles. And that really like no step is too small to take. to get food to people, I think is what we also realized. And so I know that's a lot about food distribution, but that's kind of what we switched to, because I think we realized that, you know, we've had recipes and we've had education kits and we've had these things, but really getting the kids outside.
Yeah.
They'll come back. Okay, now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Great. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. And we have
Oh
2
my
minutes
God.
left for our
I can't
presentation.
hear anybody. Oh, wait.
And I want to
Janice.
ask one more
Okay,
question.
I'll keep talking. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Other
Okay.
people-
Okay. Thanks for the thumbs up. But also just the power that people need food, and people were so grateful and overwhelmingly grateful for just that opportunity. So yeah, and I think the other point that I just really, that we learned so much this year, and just really trying to shift. Like, we are a very small farm in our small community. I was born and raised in Sisters, and you know, we've started to branch out, but realizing that we don't need to serve, you know, we can't possibly serve everybody in Deschutes County or in Warm Springs. And just looking at the issues of food sovereignty and what Karina is working on, and trying to find the best ways just to support those individuals in those communities. Maybe we don't have to be everywhere. Maybe we can better support by just supporting and sharing resources with those community members, and also just brainstorming. And so like meeting those and helping meet those immediate needs, but then also stepping back and looking at those big systems of like what, you know, what is causing that inequity in the food system, and how we can get people also growing their own food and access to land and the food assessments in their communities, so that they can also take part in this process.
Thank you,
I think
Audrey.
that's it.
Thank you. We have 1 minute left, so I just want to thank everyone for being here and for your time today. We will now be moved into the wrap-up session, where if you didn't get to answer some questions or ask some questions, you'll be able to do that during that time. So gracias, everyone. Thank you so much.